Just Joe here, and welcome to another edition of Too Many Movies at the Movies. Roll it! Okay, so just a couple days ago, I saw The Disaster Artist, the long-awaited movie. It's been completed for like over a year, and it was announced a couple years ago. The Disaster Artist, based on The Making of The Room, but the movie was based on the book by Greg Sestero, and he had a writing partner. I apologize. I forgot his name because he had nothing to do with The Room or Tommy Wiseau, so people are kind of forgetting about him, but I meant to grab the book to show you, but even if you've never seen The Room, The Disaster Artist is one of the best books I've read in the past 10 years. Honestly, it is a fantastic tale, and I was really scared they wouldn't be able to transfer the book to screen. I was very scared about that. I knew they couldn't get everything, because a lot of it is about Greg's life, and that's not what the movie's about. It's about Greg and Tommy, about their journey, their friendship, and how they made The Room and where they ended up. And that's what it should be. But I will say The Disaster Artist most certainly lived up to the hype. I had been waiting for this movie forever. When I read the book, I thought this would make a fantastic movie. And it did. James Franco directed it, and really, in a chameleon-type performance as Tommy Wiseau, he could win an Oscar for this, honestly. He'll definitely get nominated, at least, which is so weird to think that Tommy Wiseau, someone's gonna play Tommy Wiseau and get an Oscar nomination. It's just funny how movies work, how Hollywood works. And this is getting so much mainstream press for Tommy Wiseau and for The Room. So I saw The Room many years ago. I watched the Nostalgia Critics review of it online. I'm a big fan of his, and I bought the movie. Me and my friends watched it and have just loved it ever since. And we were all so excited for this movie. And like I said, it lived up to the hype. But the plot, if you don't know about it, is basically Greg Sestero wants to become an actor, meets a very mysterious Tommy Wiseau. Greg Sestero in the movie is played by Davey Franco, James Franco's brother, and he's great in it. Really does a good job at kind of like being Greg. He's not as tall as Greg Sestero, but he does look like him, especially when he gets the beard. Does a fantastic job. And Tommy Wiseau is played, of course, by James Franco, also the director. And they go on this journey through Hollywood, and Greg starts picking up steam, gets a girlfriend. Tommy, because of his thick accent and mysterious ways, isn't accepted by Hollywood, and so he decides to write his own movie, The Room, which of course became one of the best bad movies ever made. And if you haven't seen it, pick up a copy, which they're kind of getting hard to get. Everyone's wanting to buy The Room, so Tommy's making a killing off of this, all this publicity and stuff, so good for him. But I do highly recommend it. You can even get it on Blu-ray nowadays. It's fantastic. So much fun. It is a fantastic piece of shit movie. It's awful, but in all the best ways possible. And Tommy obviously made a serious film, he thought, and it turned out to just be a huge comedy. So he took advantage of that, and good for him. I would probably do the same thing to save face, and he made a lot of money from it, and technically got into Hollywood by making it. The Room changed everyone's lives, but, you know, really, in terms of the making of the movie, there's not as much as I thought there would be. I thought there would be a lot more when it came to the making of The Room. There's still a lot, and they get a lot of the key points, but they did take out a lot as well. It was obvious, because during the end credits, they show scene-by-scene comparisons, and it's amazing how they replicated The Room, almost exact, and got really good actors who looked just like the other actors, and, you know, they were actually very respectful of The Room and didn't try to put their own spin on it. They did it just like it. And it, again, very much chameleon performances from everybody. And the trials and tribulations, and Tommy didn't know what he was doing, and all the money he spent, and all the drama and everything. I think some of it, I don't remember it from the book. Some of it, I'm sure, was just made for the movie, but it worked. And it just, that basically is the movie. That's the plot of the movie. And the cast, like I said, James Franco, I don't know, I have a feeling this isn't going to get as many award nominations as it should, since it came out so late, which I still think was a ploy, because award season is just around the corner, to release this really late, so it's fresh in everyone's minds. But James Franco is, of course, getting the most recognition as playing Tommy Wiseau. He looks exactly like him, and especially when he puts the shades on, it looks exactly like Tommy Wiseau, but has the accent down perfectly, but doesn't make fun of Tommy. It's not a performance like it would be on SNL. It's respectable, and respectful of Tommy Wiseau, and that's why you believe it. And everybody else in the movie is great, even the side characters like Seth Rogen and the cast. The casting in this was about as perfect as you can get, and especially with James Franco, he's gonna get an Oscar nomination for this. There's no getting around it. If he wins, someone won an Academy Award for playing Tommy Wiseau. What the fuck is happening to this planet? But I'm okay with it. I think that's really cool if Tommy's gonna end up at the Oscars. And he will, because James will get nominated, so that's really cool. But anyway, this movie, it's gotten so much press and so much hype, and I'm so happy, because it's just a great story. The book told a great story, this friendship between Greg and Tommy and the journey they took through The Room. And like I said, the trials and tribulations of the making of this, how hard it was. Tommy didn't really know what he was doing. No one really understood him. He had a vision that made no sense, and what ended up being, you know, could have just gone down as just, that's a horrible fucking movie. Shelf it. You know, now is like Rocky Horror Picture Show and is played at midnight showings, and people in my theater in Indiana, people dressed up as the characters. They were throwing a football around in the theater. It was so much fun. But the movie is highly hilarious. It's very, very funny. The dramatic portions are very dramatic, and you feel for Tommy Wiseau and you feel for Greg Sestero. They did a great job balancing that and showcasing their friendship and showcasing really how hard it is to make a movie. There's not many good movies about making movies. Like Living in Oblivion is a wonderful one of the best. But this one I put at the top of the list, close to it. Maybe eventually at the very top, because your vision doesn't always come out the way you thought it was going to, and sometimes you just gotta say fuck it and run with it. And I like that they got that message across. And it is a good message, and it doesn't shit on Tommy Wiseau or Greg Sestero or even the movie The Room. Even Tommy Wiseau said the movie, that's the way it happened. And audiences, it's mainly a comedy, because in my theater people were laughing their asses off at everything. It's great comedy. It's a great, great time. This movie was hyped up so much for waiting for so long. To nitpick, maybe it didn't completely live up to the hype. But when the movie was over, I didn't want it to be over. I wish it would have kept going. So maybe that's why I felt that way. And I said in my other video about Coco, like, this movie I may not want to see again in the theater. I do, but I almost just kind of want to wait and keep this feeling of how I feel about The Disaster Artist, because like I said, I have been waiting for this all year. In December, I knew I was going to get Star Wars, of course, and The Disaster Artist. That was a close number 2 to Star Wars. So I've been waiting all year, and really like since last year, for this movie, but it did live up to the hype. It did. It's just something about it still bothers me a little bit. I'm not quite sure what. Maybe it was too much buildup. But James Franco's direction is fantastic. The performances are fantastic. Like I said, his chameleon type performances, Tommy Wiseau, James Franco, is amazing to watch. And, you know, the supporting cast is good too, but really the star is Davey and James Franco, but of course, mainly James. But the direction, I can't it was very clever how they shot the behind the scenes of The Room. Very clever, where you see the scene happening, but you also see it on the monitors. It's like a great making of. Honestly, it really is. Very clever camera tricks, but the movie looks beautiful. The cinematography is gorgeous. They did a great job adapting the book into the movie. I think they'll probably get a nomination too for Best Adapted Screenplay, because they had to cut a lot of shit out of the book, mainly just from Greg's life, which I completely understand, but they also treated Greg's life with a lot of respect, as well as Tommy's. And you don't get as many questions answered as I think people would want, but I don't want them answered. They kind of were in the book a little bit, but even Greg's still not sure about his very close friend. But it's okay, because I don't want to know more about Tommy Wiseau. He should remain a mystery. He should. And this movie doesn't really help that matter, and that's fine with me. And if you do see this movie, stay till after the credits, because there is almost like, not a Marvel type thing, but something between where Tommy Wiseau is in the movie. So just stay after the credits to watch it if you haven't seen it yet. But this is getting a limited release so far. I see this making a lot of money for a movie like this, very low budget, but this movie could make like $100 million because it's that good. The writing, directing, the acting, the story, everything is on point. There's just something about it that still bothers me a little bit and I can't put my finger on it. So it's not gonna be a 5 out of 5, but as close as it's gonna get. I highly recommend to go see this movie, get the word out even more, even though this has gotten a ton of press, because it really does deserve it. It's almost like a little art house movie, but with a good size Hollywood budget. It has the feeling of that, like an independent movie, but it was funded by, it's kind of like by someone famous, kind of like My Big Fat Greek Wedding felt like an independent movie, but it was produced by Tom Hanks and his wife, if that makes any sense to anybody. It just has that Hollywood feel, but also has that low budget feel. And I like that. I like when the two can be combined, because usually it's magical. And Disaster Artist, and I'm glad they kept that title. They originally changed it to The Masterpiece. Thank Christ. The Disaster Artist is much better. But please go see this movie. Talking about it now, I will go see it again if I can. But it is a limited release. I can only find like 2 theaters within 40 or 50 miles of me, and luckily one was the one I go to all the time. But it's still like a half-hour drive to see it. Well worth it. But it may be kind of hard for some of you to find, but please do if you can, if you're a movie lover. This is that good, and James Franco is at his best here. His best performance since 127 Hours, and for a directing debut, I hope he gets nominated for it, because it is astounding. But please go see it. That is The Disaster Artist. I give it a Just Joe rating of 4.5 out of 5. Thank you very much for tuning in to Too Many Movies at the Movies with me, Just Joe. Links in the description below. Every single Friday, I watch a new movie from my collection I've never seen before. It's Christmas month, so I'm watching Christmas movies I've never seen, so stay tuned for that every single Friday, sometimes Saturday, depending on my schedule, but usually on Fridays. And I will also be seeing Star Wars this week, so there'll be one more Too Many Movies at the Movies at least this year. Cannot wait to see Star Wars. It's getting rave reviews, but it's a good time to be a movie lover, I'll tell you that. But I got my coffee, I got more movies to watch, so I will see you in the next video. Coffee, take care.
Quiet on the set.